Hello, everyone. It's Monica, and we are here for some meditations by Marcus Aurelius. And I just got off a 2.5 hour, whatever, broadcast in the can with Courtney, which hasn't been released yet. And she totally blew my mind. She's like, whatever. Oh, the Stoics are, I don't know what. She just crapped on it. I was like, "Oh, look what I'm reading." She's like, "Oh, come on." So maybe I'll have to have her on to like as point counterpoint, but I've been enjoying it. Maybe I'm not uh that many layers into the new word ontological whatever as she is, but I've been enjoying this a lot. I've always loved this book. A lot of people have. So I'm going to dig into that. But I wanted to because it's Christmas and I haven't this year done my own shows. I've just been doing this and interviews and stuff, and I didn't want to do it on her interview. But I want to tell you, see if I can find a Christmas background, which would be fun. But I can't. So, but it is Christmas time. So if you want to, if you're lost for ideas for stocking stuffers or gifts, I'm not getting anything out of this. I bet the people who are making them aren't even getting anything out of this, but a good friend of our show, Stuart, and his friend make these awesome soaps. And it occurred to me like, wow, I really need to get some of these before they sell out. So then it further occurred to me to tell you where to go if you are interested. I've been using the soap since he sent me some a long time ago. He sent me a lot and I love them. And I'm a little bit of a soap snob. So I don't like the glycerin that melts. I like it when it has little noogies in it, so it scratches your skin. I like it when it doesn't dry your skin out. I love it. And they're not expensive. Nikki's Naturals, NIKKISNATURALS.com. Check it out before they sell out. I just really enjoyed them as a Christmas gift. So, Kofefe on that one. And let us commence with book 8. This is Marcus Aurelius is very overly concerned with death. So let's hope that he's just going to pull out of that, pull out of his ditch. This book. Let's see. This reflection. Okay, let me read the last paragraph of book 7, since he's starting with this reflection. So I guess there was reflection. He says, the nature of the all, capital A, moved to make the universe. But now either everything that takes place comes by way of consequence or continuity, or even the chief things towards which the ruling power of the universe directs its own movement are governed by no rational principle. If this is remembered, it will make you more tranquil in many things. Okay, now remember what Courtney was saying. She was saying that Marcus Aurelius does not have an ontology, because we were talking about libertarianism, and I always couldn't understand how, like, I thought Rothbard was right about everything, but he had this weird twisted logic about abortion. And she said, yeah, because he doesn't have like an ontology, which is a view of human nature, a position on what humanity is, or human beings are. And then it's just contractual or subjective or pragmatic. By consensus, it can be anything. But if you don't have an opinion of what is man, and she seems like she's, her fave is Aristotle, man is essentially good, yada, yada. There's more to it than that, has free will, reason. That if you don't have that starting position, you need to have something to inform the body. And that, like, I've thought of that with the body of like law, for example. I've thought of that with separation of church and state. And I've talked about this before and I've read about it. So a confessional state, I don't know if that's always used just to talk about when the Catholicism and the state are aligned, like in the Philippines or Franco's Spain, whatever. But when I read about it, I think it's in the book, The Church and the Libertarian. Let me see if I have that handy. Actually identified it I was like, oh, that's where that is, because I straightened my books out. So all right, let's go. Let me get rid of this call. Anyway, I'm not seeing it. But I believe it was there where he said that, it's not that, like, in a confessional state or whatever, they, um, punish you for not being Catholic or put you in jail for not going to church on Sunday. It's that the tenets of Catholicism inform the laws, and the only good example is always abortion, in my opinion. So where it would be like in Ireland or Brazil, abortion's illegal because it's obviously an abomination, an offense against human nature and God. But if you try to have that conversation, I should have talked to her about this more. When you try to have that conversation outside of an ontological framework, you just talk about it's a competing rights issue. And of course, the person who votes is going to have an advantage in a so-called democracy against the person who's living inside her body, you know. So the cards are the decks are stacked, but you can see how having an ontology would make a difference in that situation. Similarly, I think gay marriage would be one of those things, but and it doesn't have to be just a moral thing or sexual thing. It could be immigration. So you could have, or fair wage or minimum wage, that kind of thing, or a safety net. Like you could go to there. But so when you have a confessional state, it's informed by that ontology. It's not necessarily doesn't necessarily enforce your like belief system. Like you don't have to necessarily believe it, but you're not going to be able to get an abortion in that state, probably. So what she was saying is, Aurelius doesn't really, or the Stoics didn't really have an ontology. And I mean, I maybe I have to. I wonder if she would be the one to have the recap on this. She's just going to crap on it. I don't know. But man, she's a smart cookie. And she's got the info. All right. So now we can resume book 8 by starting at the beginning. This reflection also tends to the removal of the desire for empty fame, that it is no longer in your power to have lived the whole of your life, or at the least your life from your youth upward, like a philosopher. But both to many others and to yourself, it is plain that you are far from philosophy. You have fallen into disorder then, so that it is no longer easy for you to get the reputation of a philosopher, and your plan of life also opposes it. If then you have truly seen where the matter lies, throw away the thought of how you might seem to others, and be content if you live the rest of your life in the manner that your nature wills. Observe then what it wills, and let nothing else distract you. For you have had experience of many wanderings without having found happiness anywhere, not in syllogisms, nor in wealth, nor in reputation, nor in enjoyment, nor anywhere. Where is it then? It is in doing what man's nature requires. Now, this is interesting because what I was talking to Courtney about was that man's nature, or like, so she was saying man is good. Man is essentially good. And I said, yes, like I look at Krishnamurti, the Theosophist and stuff like that. And what Krishnamurti said was that love is selfish, not selfless, and that you're only ever doing anything because it pleases you. Even if it looks like you're doing something out of self-sacrifice, it's what you want to do. And therefore, it's for you. I mean, I guess you could say that's tautological, like what you do, you want to do, therefore you do it, or you wouldn't do it, or whatever. But I think he meant something a little more selfish than that. And I say, no. I said, yeah, okay, maybe contentment or whatever, or you have an urge, and the urge is subsided by doing things. But my mother used to say, if you know somebody who's depressed, suicidal, anything like that, tell them to go visit the sick or something, go work with the kids who have Down syndrome. Like it will change their whole feeling. And so this guy's saying, do what your nature requires. And maybe he's cutting, I mean, he's certainly acknowledging that there is a nature. I mean, I think he's saying the nature is good too. How then shall a man do this? Do what his nature requires. If he has principles that are the source of his effects and his acts, what principles? Those that relate to good and bad. The belief that there is nothing good for man that does not make him just, temperate, manly, free, and that there is nothing bad that does not do the contrary to what has been mentioned. On the occasion of every act, ask yourself, how is this with respect to me? Will I regret it? A little time and I am dead, and all is gone. What more do I seek if what I am now doing is the work of an intelligent, living being and a social being, and one who is under the same law with God? Alexander and Gaius and Pompeius, what are they in comparison with Diogenes and Heraclitus and Socrates? Hold on a second, please. I'm sorry. Sorry. Look. Dude, I'm really adopt a rescue dog. That's so funny. Is that what you need to do to feel satisfied? Um, it's not obviously I'm not going to live longer with this dog in my house. Probably gonna, just have a heart attack right on the air. So you'll be able to witness it. Yeah, but it's been fun. It was worth it. Anyway, I could just not do shows, but because there's just so much going on here. But I appreciate your patience and your voting that it's still worth it. I was just had Socrates on my lips when uh when I was so rudely interrupted by Arturo. All right, let's see where we were. Yeah, Alexander and Gaius and Pompeius, what are they in comparison with Diogenes and Heraclitus and Socrates? For the latter were acquainted with things and their causes, their forms and their matter, and the ruling principles of these men were the same. But as to the former, how many things had they to care for? And to how many things were they slaves? Okay, interesting. Alexander, Gaius, Pompeius, these are like emperors and stuff. The other guys were the philosophers. Maybe I need to talk to Courtney about this because this guy seems to have an ontology. Consider that men will do the same things even though you would burst with rage. I have to give Stella a hat tip for this one. Arturo was rudely interrupted by humans. That is true. Someone pushed his buttons. Somebody alerted him. That's his job. His job is to alert, and they alerted him. So my apologies. Okay, I got that wrong. It's all in your point of view, isn't it? This is the chief thing. Hey, maybe the answer is in the next sentence. Do not be perturbed. There it is. For all things are according to the nature of the universal or the dog. And in a little time, you will be nobody and nowhere. Oh, this again? This guy with the negativity, like Hadrian and Augustus. Yes, true. In the next place, having fixed your eyes steadily on your business, look at it. At the same time, remembering that it is your duty to be a good man and do what man's nature demands without turning aside, and speak as it seems to you most just. Only let it be with a good disposition and with modesty and without hypocrisy. The nature of the universal has this work to do: To remove to that place the things that are in this, to change them, to take them away hence, and to carry them there. All things are change, yet we need not fear anything new. All things are familiar to us, but the distribution of them still remains the same. Every nature is contented with itself when it goes on its way well, and irrational nature goes on its way well when in its thoughts it assents to nothing false or uncertain, and when it directs its movements to social acts only, and when it confines its desires and aversions to the things that are in its power, and when it is satisfied with everything that is assigned to it by the common nature. Now he's sounding like man is like just a rational animal. I don't know, man. Oh, I'm getting distracted. Bobby's gonna yell at me. He kind of looks like a Malinois. Yes, he looks like a Malinois. They're saying that Malinois are great like that. He's a German Shepherd Golden mix, but you would think he was a Malinois, like a Belgian Shepherd. And then it made me wonder if like the DNA stuff is not as perfect as they make you think. Okay. For this common nature, every particular nature is a part, as the nature of the leaf is a part of the nature of the plant, except that in the plant, the nature of the leaf is part of a nature that has not perception or reason and is subject to being impeded. But the nature of man is part of a nature that is not subject to impediments and is intelligent and just, since it gives to everything in equal portions and according to its worth, times, substance, cause, form, that is, activity, and incident. But examine not to discover that any one thing compared with any other single thing is equal in all respects, but by taking all the parts together of one thing and comparing them with all the parts together of another. You have not leisure or ability to read, but you have leisure or ability to check arrogance. You have leisure to be superior to pleasure and pain. You have leisure to be superior to love of fame and not to be vexed at stupid and ungrateful people, nay, even to care for them. Let no man any longer hear you finding fault with the court life or with your own. Repentance is a kind of self-reproof for having neglected something useful. Yes, yes. I think that people like make fun of Catholics for having guilt or shame or whatever. I'm like, this stuff is important so you don't do it again. It's about behavior modification. Come on. Am I right? But that which is good must be something useful, and the perfect good man should look after it. But no such man would ever repent of having refused any sensual pleasure. Pleasure then is neither good nor useful. No such man would repent of having refused any sensual pleasure. Pleasure then is neither good nor useful. I completely disagree. Did I ever tell you about the time that I've definitely told you the story at least once. A friend of mine and I, there was a crash in the market. We were investment bankers, my friend Liz. And the market crashed and there was like nothing to do. We were used to working like 20 hours a day, like no joke. And we were just sitting there like, what should we do? And I was like, oh my gosh. We usually make a lot of money, but don't have a lot of time. We have the time. Let's go. I know this is going to sound really bad. Let's go pig out at Petrosian, which was the caviar house. It was ridiculous. It was more money than I'd ever spent on food ever in my life. But we did. And she got cancer and she died. It was a while after that, but it's been 8 years ago from now. So, and I remember I would go visit her and I remember we talked about that, like how great that was and what a good time. And like we really agonized of whether we were going to do it because it was super, we were bored and we wanted to do something cool. Like one time I went to Atlantic City with a friend at like midnight because of the same kind of thing. And she did not miss that money on her deathbed. And she was glad she did it. It was very fun. So maybe it was the good time that we remembered and not the sensual pleasure, but I say live a little, You won't regret living a little. Anyway, this thing, what is it in itself, in its own constitution? What is its substance and material? And what is causal nature or form? And what is it doing in the world? And how long does it subsist? Okay, let's see if he explains that. When you rise from sleep with reluctance, remember that it is according to your constitution and according to human nature to perform social acts. But sleeping is common also to irrational animals. But that which is according to each individual's nature is also more peculiarly its own and more suitably to its nature, and indeed also more agreeable. Constantly, and if it be possible, on the occasion of every impression on the soul, apply to it the principles of physics, ethics, and dialectics. Whatever man you meet with, immediately say to yourself, what opinions has this man about good and bad? For if, with respect to pleasure and pain and the causes of each, and with respect to fame and ignominy, death and life, he has such and such opinions, it will seem nothing wonderful or strange to me if he does such and such things, and I shall bear in mind that he is compelled to do so. Yeah, judge somebody by their character right off the bat, and you'll get it. You'll understand what to expect. That's fair enough. Remember that as it is a shame to be surprised if the fig tree produces figs, so it is to be surprised if the world produces such and such things of which it is productive. And for the physician and the helmsman, it is a shame to be surprised if a man has a fever, or if the wind is unfavorable. Remember that to change your opinion and to follow him who corrects your error is as consistent with freedom as it is to persist in your error. For it is your own activity which is exerting according to your own movement and judgment, and indeed according to your own understanding too. If a thing is in your own power, why do you do it? But if it is in the power of another, whom do you blame? The atoms, chance, or the gods? Both are foolish. Whom do you blame? The atoms, chance, or the gods? Oh, I read that twice. Okay. Both are foolish. You must blame nobody. For if you can, correct that which is the cause. But if you cannot do this, correct at least the thing itself. But if you cannot do even this, of what use is it to you to find fault? For nothing should be done without a purpose. That which has died does not fall out of the universe. If it stays here, it also changes here and is dissolved into its proper parts, which are elements of the universe and of yourself. And these too change, and they do not complain. Everything exists for some end, be it a horse, a vine. Why do you wonder? Even the sun will say, I am for some purpose, and the rest of the gods will say the same. For what purpose then do you exist? To enjoy pleasure? See if common sense allows this. Nature has included in its aim, in every case, no less the end than the beginning and the continuance, just like the man who throws up a ball. What good is it then for the ball to be thrown up, or harm for it to come down, or even to have fallen? And what good is it to be the bubble while it holds together, or what harm when it bursts? The same way may be said of a light also. Turn it, the body, inside out, and see what kind of thing it is. And when it has grown old, what kind of thing it becomes, and when it is diseased. Short-lived are both of the praiser and the praised, and the rememberer and the remembered. And all this in a nook of this part of the world. And not even here do all agree. No, not any one with himself, and the whole earth too is a point. I didn't get that. Attend to the matter before you, whether it is an opinion or an act or a word. You suffer this justly, for you choose rather to become good tomorrow than to be good today. Am I doing anything? I do it with reference to the good of mankind. Oh, secular humanism. Maybe that's what she was saying, because that's what that is. Does anything happen to me? I receive it and refer it to the gods. And the source of all things from which all that happens is derived. As bathing appears to you, oil, sweat, dirt, filthy water, all things disgusting, so is every part of life and everything. Lucilla saw Verus die, and then Lucilla died. Secunda saw Maximus die, and then Secunda died. Epitincanus saw Diotimus die, and then Epictincanus died. Antoninus saw Faustina die, and then Antoninus died. Such is everything. Sellers saw Hadrian die, and then Seller died. And those sharp-witted men, either seers or men inflated with pride, where are they? For instance, the sharp-witted men, Charax and Demetrius, the Platonist, and Eudaimon, and anyone else like them, all ephemeral, dead long ago. Some indeed have not been remembered even for a short time, and others have become the heroes of fables, and again, others have disappeared even from fables. Remember this then, that this little compound, yourself, must either be dissolved, or your poor breath must be extinguished, or be removed and placed elsewhere. It brings satisfaction to a man to do the proper works of a man. Now it is a proper work of a man to be benevolent to his own kind, to despise the movements of the senses, to form a just judgment of plausible appearances, and to take a survey of the nature of the universe and of the things that happen in it. There are three relations between you and other things. The one to the body that surrounds you, the second to the divine cause from which all things come to all, and the third to those who live with you. Pain is either an evil to the body, then let the body say what it thinks of it, or to the soul. But it is in the power of the soul to maintain its own serenity and tranquility, and not to think that pain is an evil. For every judgment and movement and desire and aversion is within, and no evil ascends so high. Wipe out your imaginings by often saying to yourself, now it is in my power to let no badness be in this soul, nor desire, nor any perturbation at all. But looking at all things, I see their true nature, and I use each according to its value. Remember this power that nature gives you. Speak both in the Senate and to every man, whoever he may be, appropriately, without affectation. Use plain discourse. That is good advice in speaking, in writing, in society. Totally agree. Augustus's court, wife, daughter, descendants, ancestors, sister Agrippa, kinsmen, intimates, friends, Arius, Maecenas, physicians, and sacrificing priests. The whole court is dead. Then turn to the rest, not considering the death of a single man, but of a whole race, as of the Pompeii. And that, I mean, think about that. Yeah, that's the thing. No matter what happens here with this AI and all of that, it will fall away. It may take humanity with it, but it will fall away. And if they don't actually transform human nature, like fundamentally, like with genetic manipulation, like eradicating some of these essential natures, like if you can do that genetically, I don't know if you can. But it's not, if they don't do that, if they just count on you, like they kind of gave up on the RFID. I was also talking to her about this today. They gave up on the RFID because everybody just keeps their phone in their pockets. They don't have to get inside you. You do it yourself. You get inside them. And maybe it'll be that, in which case when the whole thing comes crashing down, there will be human beings will rise from the ashes. Consider what trouble those before them have had, that they might leave a successor. And then that of necessity, someone must be the last. Again, here, consider the death of a whole race. It is your duty to order your life well in every single act. And if every act does its duty, as far as is possible, be content. And no one is able to hinder you, so that each act shall not do its duty. But something external will stand in the way. Nothing will stand in the way of your acting justly and soberly and considerately. But perhaps some other active power will be hindered. Well, but by acquiescing in the hindrance and by being content to transfer your efforts to that which is allowed, another opportunity of action is immediately put before you in place of that which was hindered, and one which will adapt itself to this ordering of which we are speaking. Receive wealth or prosperity without arrogance and be ready to let it go. If you have ever seen a hand cut off, or a foot or a head lying anywhere apart from the rest of the body, so does a man make himself, as far as he can, who is not content with what happens and separates himself from others or does anything unsocial. Suppose that you have detached yourself from the natural unity, for you were made by nature a part, but now you have cut yourself off. Yet here there is this beautiful provision that it is in your power to unite yourself again. That is also true. You can always um start over just on a dime. You could just turn the whole thing around. Absolutely. Okay. God has allowed this to no other part after it has been separated and cut asunder to come together again. But consider the kindness by which he has distinguished man, for he has put it in his power not to be separated at all from the universal. And when he has been separated, he has allowed him to return and to be united and to resume his place as a part. As the nature of the universal has given to every rational being all the other powers that it has, so we have received from it this power also. For as the universal nature converts and fixes in its predestined place everything that stands in the way and opposes it and makes such things a part of itself, so also the rational animal is able to make every hindrance its own material and to use it for such purposes as it may have designed. Do not disturb yourself by thinking of the whole of your life. Do not let your thoughts at once embrace all the various troubles that you may expect to befall you, but on every occasion ask yourself, what is there in this that is intolerable and past bearing? For you will be ashamed to confess. In the next place, remember that neither the future nor the past pains you, but only the present. But this is reduced to a very little if you only circumscribe it and chide your mind, if it is unable to hold out against even this. That's a good one too, because I think about that, like how people bear up under tragedy. And it's definitely made worse by thoughts of past and future. And especially if somebody dies and you don't want to let them go, so you won't stop thinking about them or the past. I'm not saying you should. I'm just saying you're so afraid of a future without them that you're carrying them into the future with you by harboring the past in your mind and your heart. And I really think that makes it could make it impossible to go on. I'm just thinking of people who lost children and what do I know? You can't really know if you haven't experienced it, but I wonder, I think that you could bear it in a moment. You can bear their absence in a moment if they're just not with you in that moment, but it's having known them and knowing that there's a future without them, I think. And I don't know what the answer is. I mean, I think you do have to kind of let it go a bit, but and that's why I think people turn to drink and drugs and stuff, really drink, because you got to carry it around with you, but you need a break once in a while, but you won't let it go for fear that it will be gone. So you keep it there and then you just dull your senses for a little while. That just it is true, but it's also not, not great to think of things like that. Like Krishnamurti used to say that if you don't think about the past or the future, you have no ill will towards anyone or whatever. And I'm like, think of all the jerks that wronged you and will keep wronging you if you don't remember how they've wronged you. Like, you can't do that. It doesn't work. Anyway, does Panthea or Pergamus now sit by the tomb of Verus? Does Charis or Diotimus sit by the tomb of Hadrian? That would be ridiculous. Well, suppose they did sit there. Would the dead be conscious of it? And if the dead were conscious, would they be pleased? And if they were pleased, would that make them immortal? Was it not in the order of destiny that these persons too should first become old women and old men and then die? What then would those you want to hear a crazy synchro? It's so crazy, you're not going to believe it. At this second, I just got a text from someone near and dear to me who had lost a baby, like a unborn baby, and just said, this was 10 years ago. Just this second. Weird. Okay. If they were pleased, would that make them immortal? Was it not in the order of destiny that these persons too should first become old women and old men and then die? What then would those do after these were dead? And all this is foul smell and blood in a bag. If you can see sharp, look and judge wisely, says the philosopher. In the constitution of the rational animal, I see no virtue that is opposed to justice, but I see a virtue that is opposed to love of pleasure, and that is temperance. If you take away your opinion about that which appears to give you pain, you yourself stand in perfect security. Who is this self? Reason. But I am not reason. True. Let then reason not trouble itself. But if any other part of you suffers, let it have its own opinion about itself. Okay, so is that synchro? Frightening me is saying morphic resonance. Is that what you're saying that synchro was? Because that was freaky. Like I wasn't even going to tell you because it was like too not believable. I should have taken a screenshot so you could see the moment. Hindrance to the perceptions of sense is an evil to the animal nature. Hindrance to the movements, desires, is equally an evil to the animal nature. And something else also is equally an impediment and an evil to the constitution of plants. So then that which is a hindrance to the intelligence is an evil to the intelligent nature. Apply all these things then to yourself. Does pain or sensuous pleasure affect you? The senses will look to that. Has any obstacle opposed you in your efforts towards an object? If indeed you were making this effort absolutely, unconditionally, or without any reservation, certainly this obstacle is an evil to you considered as a rational animal. But if you take into consideration the usual course of things, you have not yet been injured or even impeded. Indeed, no one can impede the things that are proper to the mind. Neither fire, nor iron, nor tyrant, nor abuse touches it in any way. I think abuse does touch your mind. A sphere once formed remains round and true. He writes that in quotations. It is not fit that I should give myself pain, for I have never intentionally given pain even to another. Different things delight different people, but it is my delight to keep the ruling faculty sound without turning away either from any man or from any of the things that happen to men, but looking at and receiving all with welcoming eyes and using everything according to its value. See that you secure this present time to yourself. For those who rather pursue posthumous fame do not consider that the men of tomorrow will be exactly like these whom they cannot bear now, and both are mortal. And what is it in any way to you if these men of tomorrow utter this or that sound or have this or that opinion about you? Yeah, like that's why I'm like, we're so worried about what's coming down, the technocracy, which does appear to be coming down. And we are the husbands of this society, and we're not single-handedly responsible for it, or we could stop it, but it's a lot of people who were vigilant, maybe vigilant but vigilant in the wrong ways or whatever, are responsible. We're probably not going to stop it, but do we have to let it make us sick? Do we have to hold it like a lost child? Or can we just say, those people are going to die too. They're going to have to live their life the way they want to. Businessman walking down the street. Take me and cast me where you will, for there I shall keep my divine part tranquil. that is, content, if it can feel and act conformably to its proper constitution. Is this change of place sufficient reason why my soul should be unhappy and worse than it was, depressed, expanded, shrinking, affrighted? And what will you find that is sufficient reason for this? Nothing can befall a man that is not a contingency natural to men, nor befall an ox that is not natural to oxen, nor a vine that is not natural to a vine, nor to a stone that is not proper to it. If then there happens to each thing both what is usual and natural, why should you complain? For the common nature brings nothing that you cannot bear. If you are pained by an external thing, it is not this thing that disturbs you, but your own judgment about it. And it is in your power to wipe out this judgment now. But if anything in your own disposition gives you pain, who hinders you from correcting your opinion? And even if you are pained because you're not doing some particular thing that seems to you to be right, why do you not rather act than complain? I've always said that, like, people have self-loathing. Maybe it's impossible to overcome. I think I can understand it a little bit. I think your best bet is to change the thing that you hate about yourself because it might actually suck. Like, don't go to a psychiatrist, like, why do people hate me? And then they can tell you reasons why it's not your fault, but it's, you can also just see if changing that thing will help. All right. That was the thing about when I went back to the church. I was like not happy with myself. And I was like, well, let's see. I'm going to give it 5 years without questioning that decision. And if I'm happier with myself at the end of that time, or just happier, then I'm going to keep it going. And I was. But some insuperable obstacle is in the way, is the rejoinder that he's identifying. He says, do not be grieved then, for the cause of its not being done depends not on you. So don't worry about it. If that's really true, if there's something you can't change, don't worry about it. And then you say, but it is not worthwhile to live if this cannot be done. And Aurelius's answer is, take your departure then from life contentedly, just as he dies who is in full activity, and well pleased too with the things that are obstacles. I mean, if you can't hack it, bye. Later. Remember that the ruling faculty is invincible. When self-collected, it is satisfied with itself. If it does nothing that it does not choose to do, even if it resists from mere obstinacy. What then will it be when it forms a judgment about anything aided by reason and deliberately? Therefore, the mind that is free from passions is a citadel. For man has nothing more secure to which he can fly for refuge and repel every attack. He then who has not seen this is an ignorant man. But he who has seen it and does not fly to this refuge is unhappy. Say nothing more to yourself than what the first appearances report. Suppose that it has been reported to you that a certain person speaks ill of you. This has been reported. But that you have been injured, that has not been reported. I see that my child is ill. I do see, but that he is in danger, I do not see. Thus then always abide by the first appearances, and add nothing yourself from within, and then nothing happens to you. Or rather add something, but like a man who is familiar with every possible contingency in the world. Okay, so now I'm going to do Frightening Me's little story here. Like the Buddhist story about a son with a broken leg, it's neither good nor bad when the army comes recruiting the next day. I think of that all the time. All the time. Good luck, bad luck, I don't know. Everything. That's what people are like, oh, you're so cheerful all the time. I try to stay positive, which was not in my nature. I was the guy who was talking about who doesn't like to get up in the morning. I'm not like that anymore. But if you, because very little is a real tragedy. And when you've been around tragedy, you realize every day without a tragedy is a good day. Same thing with even the Down syndrome. My son being born with Down syndrome, I absolutely thought it was a tragedy. The worst thing that ever happened to me. My father, who had been through hell in his life, said the worst thing that ever befell him or our family, whatever, was that my son was born with Down syndrome. They were so gutted and heartbroken, and it turned out to be like, it's Slimy G, man. He's the best. It's a huge pain in the ass. I'm not gonna lie to you there, but it's worth it. It's worth the effort. Lots of work is worth the effort. So even that, which really felt like a tragedy, really felt like a lost baby, really felt like I had a stillborn, and then somebody left this like charity case on my doorstep. You know, it was impossible really to get your heart around that in the moment. But a lot of it was fear. And I mean, so even that. So there's very little. And that's why I like when I pray. And actually, what that message was, Stella said something about prayer earlier. The message was, I'm going to go to mass for the baby. So I really just basically pray for the regular stuff. I can take the regular stuff, but the real tragedies, that's what we pray to avoid. But very little is like that. So I guess he's talking to like negative net over here. And I would say Aurelius probably says, oh, you can even deal with that, this lost child or whatever. Like, I don't know about that. But I mean, I guess you could, but I feel like you'd have to cut a little piece of your heart out. Not physically, but maybe physically. Anyway. Rob says, tragedy is such a vast category because it is one's own outlook to the situation. Yes, that's what I think he's saying. And I think, and his whole thing is about death. And I'm really just talking about death. I'm talking about loss like that. And maybe because I had that year last year where, my mom died and my dogs died. And I'll tell you, Joe Not a Fed, like, I think about him all the time. Like, I'm bummed and that he died. And these are just, it's impossible to get your mind around that kind of loss. And then you worry about your own self. And I guess that's where this guy's coming down. Maybe there's comfort in this, even in tragedy. But I just have that. I don't want to know. I want to find out myself. I pray that's my prayer. Like, everybody I love lives like a good and healthy life, natural death, salvation. Like, that's what I want for everybody. And that is what I want for everybody. Damn you, Eve. And Adam. He did his part. Not gonna lie. All right. I know. We love Joe. We love Joe. Anybody who's prays, say prayer for Joe. Okay. A cucumber is bitter. Throw it away. There are briars in the road. Turn aside from them. This is enough. Do not add, and why were such things made in the world? My mother used to say that all the time. Why did God make mosquitoes? That's what I want to know. Mosquitoes. I'm like, I think they feed birds. I think they're bird food. But yes, I'm with her. There had to have been a better way. All right. For you will be ridiculed by a man who is acquainted with nature, as you would be ridiculed by a carpenter and shoemaker if you found fault because you saw in their workshop shavings and cuttings from the things that they make. And yet they have places into which they can throw these shavings and cuttings, and the universal nature has no external space. But the wondrous part of her art is that though she has circumscribed herself, everything within her that appears to decay and to grow old and to be useless, she changes into herself, and again makes other new things from these very same, so that she requires neither substance from without, nor wants a place into which she may cast that which decays. She is content then with her own space and her own matter and her own art. I want consciousness. I want to know my name. I want to see Stella in heaven. I want to see Joe. I want to see all those people someday, not too soon. for either of us, Stella, but that's what I want. I want to yuck it up. I don't want to turn into, compost. That's not making me feel any better, Mark. All right. Neither in your actions be sluggish, nor in conversation without method, nor wandering in your thoughts, nor let there be in your soul inward contention, nor external effusion, nor in life be so busy as to have no leisure. Okay. I heard that. Suppose that men kill you, cut you in pieces, curse you. What then can these things do to prevent your mind from remaining pure, wise, sober, just? For instance, if a man should stand by a limpid, pure spring and curse it, the spring never ceases sending up potable water. And if he should cast clay into it or filth, it will speedily disperse them and wash them out and will not be at all polluted. How then shall you possess a perpetual fountain and not a mere well? By forming yourself hourly to freedom conjoined with contentment, simplicity, and modesty. He who does not know what the world is does not know where he is. And he who does not know for what purpose the world exists does not know who he is or what the world is. But he who has failed in any one of these things could not even say for what purpose he exists himself. What then do you think of him who avoids or seeks the praise of those who applaud, of men who know not either where they are or who they are? Do you wish to be praised by a man who curses himself 3 times every hour? Would you wish to please a man who does not please himself? Does a man please himself who repents of nearly everything that he does? No longer let your breathing only act in concert with the air that surrounds you, but let your intelligence also now be in harmony with the intelligence that embraces all things. For the intelligent power is diffused in all parts and pervades all things for him who is willing to draw it to him, no less than the aerial power for him who can breathe. Generally, wickedness does no harm at all to the universe, and particularly the wickedness of one man does no harm to another. It is harmful only to him who has it in his power to be released from it as soon as he shall choose. To my own free will, the free will of my neighbor is just as indifferent as his poor breath and flesh. For though we are made especially for the sake of one another, still the ruling power of each of us has its own office. For otherwise my neighbor's wickedness would be my harm, and this was not God's will, in order that my unhappiness may not depend on another. This is interesting because we were talking today, and this, you've got to hear it. Obviously, it's coming up, but probably over the next couple of weeks, it'll be a 2-part. It was like a 2.5-hour conversation with Courtney. That Aristotle was individual, and Plato was kind of the collective. But I'm on the individual side because, only man can reason, can decide, can act, and can suffer. And Plato, the collective, it's hard to have accountability and all of that. But he seems to, Marcus Aurelius here, seems to merge them nicely. In this area. The sun appears to be poured down, and in all directions indeed it is diffused, yet it does not effuse itself away. For this diffusion is extension. Accordingly, its rays are called extensions because they are extended. And he writes it in Greek. But one may judge what kind of a thing a ray is if he looks at the sun's light passing through a narrow opening into a darkened room. For it is extended in a straight line and is divided when it meets with any solid body that stands in the way and intercepts the air beyond. But there the light remains fixed and does not glide or fall off. Such then ought to be the outpouring and diffusion of the understanding, never a diffusing away, but an extension. And it should make no violent or impetuous collision with the obstacles that are in its way, nor yet fall down, but be fixed and enlighten that which received it. For a body will deprive itself of the illumination if it does not admit it. He who fears death fears either the loss of sensation or a different kind of sensation. But if you shall have no sensation, neither will you feel any harm. And if you will acquire another kind of sensation, you will be a different kind of living being, and you will not cease to live. Yeah, it's the fear of the unknown. It's the fear, of course, that ruins the whole that the fear of death. It's just fear. It's annoying. Men exist for the sake of one another. Teach them then, or bear with them. In one way, an arrow moves, in another way, the mind. Yet the mind, both when it cautiously examines its ground and when it is engaged in its inquiry, is nonetheless moving straight ahead and toward its goal. Enter into every man's ruling faculty, and also let every other man enter into yours. Okay. All right. That's something to mull over. That's the end of book 8. Next, we will hit book 9. So, what I'm about to do, I'm about to make some really awesome grass-fed liver that I got through a listener friend from a farm around here somewhere. And does everybody know that you're supposed to soak it in milk first? I have to go soak my liver in milk. But yeah, and then it just sucks all the schmutz out and like cook it for literally like 1 minute on each side. It's gonna be great. Whenever my husband's traveling, my son, Salami G, and I eat the gross stuff and we love it. So it's liver night and we're both really excited. Anyway, so I will let you go. If you want to support me, go to Substack, Monica Perez Show. That would be awesome. You know what I would love? If you're still listening, there are a lot of people still listening. I'm like a handful of reviews of stars away from 300 on iTunes. So for Christmas, I would like to have 300. You don't have to write anything. Just like put a smiley face in there or whatever. I would love it if you would give me a review on iTunes, like 100% because I like it. It's good for the algo, but I like it. Anyway, and if this has nothing to do with me, but I really do like the Nikki Naturals, NIKKISNATURALS.com. If you want to support some really good people doing good stuff, who I bet, I bet it barely makes them anything. But so Merry Christmas. I'll be back. It's early. It's December 9th, so worry not. Bye. Fear is the mind killer. Oh yeah, Dune. Love Dune. Love Dune. Only if it's beef, not if it's calf liver. Oh, you don't do the milk if it's calf liver? I don't have calf liver. I have beef liver, but I did not know that. Thank you for telling me. Duck, any of that duck liver is super great. Well, you have to tell me. Well, I'm gonna wait and look. I'm gonna say goodbye. But Rob, if you could tell me if only beef liver and no other kind of liver. On that cheerful note, until next time.